Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
There's a dark shadow that's begun to loom over the Gloucestershire village of Pilning. This 500,000 square foot warehouse, better known to locals as the Mega Shed, rises more than 20 metres in the sky. Construction of what is officially an industrial distribution hub has been allowed to go ahead due to old planning consent dating back to 1957. The scheme was part of a post-war building initiative allowing developers to build without a full public consultation, leaving residents in the dark.
So you can see out of this window here how big the warehouse is and why we've nicknamed it the Mega Shed.
Retired policeman Paul Selby is greeted by the warehouse every time he opens his curtains.
I don't think you need to be a magician to work out that they've not taken any account of the impact that the thing's going to have on the local area. You can see it from, all over the place, and everybody is commenting that it's completely spoilt what was a rural village.
A spokesperson for South Gloucestershire Council said much of the new development at Sevenside is governed by planning permission granted in 1957. This permission gives wide-ranging powers for development with limited remaining control for the council to exercise. A government spokesperson said councils are ultimately responsible for reviewing old permissions if the development is no longer suitable and deciding whether action is necessary. But local MP Claire Young believes similar developments around the country means it is a matter for Parliament.
At the moment, the government appears to be saying, no, it's not really our problem. And I think it is. That's why I want to get a minister in front of me in the chamber so I can explain what I think the problem is and what could be done about it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live and they'll hear loads of questions being asked and they'll be thinking, that's not my question. That's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and want to have an open discussion.
My name's Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, it is 10 o'clock on Saturday the 22nd of November. Live across the UK, this is Saturday Morning Live.
Very aware energy bills are too high, and if there's one issue, I think, for your viewers and for families and communities across the country, above all else, is the cost of living.
Well, budget pressure intensifies this morning as the Prime Minister, recognising the cost of living pressure and fails to rule out manifesto-breaking tax rises. We'll find out what it means for the money in your pocket.
Well, it comes as Sir Keir Starmer tells GB News' political editor Chris Hope that he still wants to be Prime Minister in 2034.
Like it, and if he doesn't like it, then they should just keep fighting, I guess. Well, at some point he's going to have to accept something. He hasn't accepted. You remember right in the Oval Office not so long ago, I said, you don't have the cards.
President Trump has issued an ultimatum to Ukraine, saying they must sign his proposed peace plan by Thursday. President Zelensky, meanwhile, said it was one of the most difficult days in our history.
We'll give the latest from the G20 in Johannesburg.
Shabana Mahmood's immigration reform made headlines this week. She said today that Labour MPs must stop gaslighting voters about the issue, but will backbenchers get in the way?
And more than half of young people do not feel there is enough state support to help them get paid jobs. That's according to a new TUC poll. Should the state be doing more to get young people into work, or should young people actually just do it themselves? We'll be debating that later.
The biggest stories, boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next 2 hours. I'm Olivia Utley.
And I'm Cameron Walker. Your weekend starts right here. You see, Olivia, when I was at school, I was told you've got to work hard, you've got to be resilient, you've got to stand on your own 2 feet and not rely on other people for support.
Well, exactly, and I just can't understand this idea. What's the state supposed to do to help young people get work? There are jobs out there. Young people can apply for them just as anyone else can. Surely if the government wants to do anything about helping get young people into work, what to do is to stop hammering businesses with such high taxes that it makes it absolutely impossible to employ anyone young or old.
Yeah, and of course there are deprived areas across the UK where young people perhaps do have a worse start than other young people in the UK, but perhaps surely there are other ways rather than just using taxpayers' money to help the young people who some perceive as lazy, some of course do have issues, to try and get get a job in the first place.
I do wonder if reforming the benefits system is the first step to the problem, because if there is a way to not go to work, to not set your alarm in the morning, to have a bit of a lie-in and to still manage to get by on taxpayer money, then people will take that option. We hate to say it in this country, but some people are going to game the system if there's a system to game, and I think Labour is aware of that now. They're beginning to realise it. The problem is their backbenchers won't let them do anything about it.
Do you know what my theory is? Lockdown and the coronavirus pandemic. I think a lot of people got very complacent, quite liked having those state handouts with furlough and all the rest of it. Could they have just got too used to it and not realise how to get a job?
I think that is an excellent theory, and I don't know how you get around that. And don't forget, we want to hear from you about all of that. Please do let us know what you think about that story and everything else we'll be talking about today. Send your views and post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/yoursay.
But before we do anything else, here's Sophia Wensler with your latest news headlines.
Cameron and Olivia, thank you. Good morning. These are your headlines. It's just gone 10 o'clock. Donald Trump says Volodymyr Zelensky will have to approve a proposed peace plan to end the war in Ukraine or risk losing weapons and intelligence.
He'll have to like it, and if he doesn't like it, then, they should just keep fighting, I guess. Well, at some point he's going to have to accept something. He hasn't accepted. You remember right in the Oval Office not so long ago, I said, you don't have the cards.
The US president says Kyiv has a week to decide, but Zelensky has warned that Ukraine risks losing its dignity and freedom. The controversial 28-point proposal would see Vladimir Putin walk away with full ownership over the Donbas regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, as well as Crimea. Meanwhile, it's understood Russia will be freed from Western sanctions, rejoin the G7 and take back the majority of its frozen assets under Donald Trump's peace plan. The Russian president has cautiously welcomed the US proposal and said they could form the basis for a final peace settlement. Meanwhile, it's understood European nations, including the UK, France and Germany, are now working on a counter-proposal with Kyiv. Sir Keir Starmer said Ukraine's allies will seek to strengthen a US plan to end the war with Russia when they meet at the G20 summit in South Africa today. The Prime Minister said Ukraine's friends and partners remain committed to securing a lasting peace once and for all. Neither US President Donald Trump nor Russian President Vladimir Putin are attending the G20. Elsewhere, a new poll has revealed the Tories would win just 14 seats if a general election were called now. According to The Telegraph, some Tory insiders think the party is in danger of being consigned to the history books. The poll predicts Reform would win a 46-seat majority, raising questions over Kemi Badenoch's leadership of the party. Now, some breaking news. The owner of the Daily Mail has agreed a £500 million deal to buy The Telegraph. The Daily Mail and General Trust has signed an agreement with Redbird IMI to acquire the Telegraph Media Group, and they are now in a period of exclusive talks to finalise the terms of the transaction. Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy says she will review the potential new deal. And children as young as 10 will be given puberty blockers on the NHS from early next year after a trial was granted ethical approval. It follows the banning of the drugs for gender treatment last year after a major review raised concerns about the lack of clinical evidence over their safety for under 18s. The study by King's College London will recruit about 250 girls and boys aged 10 to 15 who identify as transgender and who have parental consent. Those are the latest GB News headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Thank you, Sophia, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Cameron Walker and me, Olivia Utley. To politics at home, and Sir Keir Starmer has said that Nigel Farage is not fit to be Prime Minister unless he calls out racist comments in his party.
Yeah, the Prime Minister spoke to GB News' political editor, Christopher Hope, in Johannesburg. He went on to face down those plotting a leadership battle to oust him, saying that he will he will still be PM in 2034.
Well, that's what he says. Let's have a listen to what he said to political editor Chris Hope in South Africa.
Finally, on your future, you said in the Daily Mirror this week you'll fight the next general election. If you win, will you serve a full second term?
Yes, I've always said this is a decade of national renewal. I know that we're elected on a mandate of change.
Yep.
That change is bearing down on the cost of living. Do people feel better off?
Oh, yeah.
It's making sure our public services are turned around, and our NHS in particular, and people feel safe and secure in their community. I'll be judged on that at the next election, quite rightly, by the electorate, and every day that is what I focus on.
Okay.
Well, it's not just the Labour leader in hot water, because elsewhere, polling leaked to the Telegraph newspaper suggests that the Tories would win just 14 seats if a general election was called now.
Well, joining us now is the Deputy Political Editor of The Spectator, James Heal. I mean, let's start with that astonishing poll suggesting the Tories would win 14 seats. Is that really realistic? Are we going to see the total wipeout of the Conservative Party at the next election?
Well, it's certainly something that many MPs within the party think is a very plausible situation. I've spoken to them firsthand, and under the current system we've got, first past the post, it is utterly ruthless. If you are on top, you can win a stonking majority, as Boris Johnson found in 2019. But if you are not polling more than 25%, 30% in places, it means almost total wipeout. So I'm not surprised by this polling. What is interesting is that it's leaked. It's made its way to the front page of the Telegraph, along with lots of damning quotes about Kemi Badenoch and the current state of the Conservative Party. So I think that is very much a reflection of where we're at, and I think the Tories may well be considering a leadership change at some point next year.
Speaking of that leadership change, there's some insiders who believe that Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Conservative Party, has been too passive in her first few months, and that has led to Reform UK kind of filling that political vacuum. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I certainly think that even very sort of close aides, Kemi Badenoch would admit that the first 6 months or so of her leadership, there was a mistake to sort of let that Reform UK machine grow and almost leave the pitch. And I think there's also been moments, Cameron, where, you know, over the summer it was quite odd to see sort of both Labour and the Conservatives almost serve like cricket teams and pack up for the summer and allow Nigel Farage those big weekly press conferences without any kind of alternative being put out there to grab the headlines. I do think there's been a marked improvement in Kemi Badenoch's performance. I think most of our MPs would agree with that assessment. The question is, of course, is twofold. Number one, is it been enough of an improvement? And second of all, even if they had someone else, would anyone be listening? Is it the personality or is it the brand that's too damaged?
And I think you can ask the same question, really, about Keir Starmer. You heard that interview there where he said he'd still like to be Prime Minister in 2034. Watching from here, that seems pretty absurd. Do you think there's a chance, a real chance, of a leadership contest in the Labour Party in the next sort of 6 months or so, maybe at the May election?
Well, as you say, Olivia, that's 9 years away. I think you should focus more on the next 9 months. I think that it's going to be very difficult to see both Kemi Badenoch and Keir Starmer both in their jobs this time around, 12 months' time. I think that the key question, of course, is going to be about those elections, how bad they are in Wales, where on the current course, Labour looks like it's going to come third in an election where they've won every single one for 100 years in Wales and at a local and general level. And I think also it depends on sort of the Labour mood, and is there an alternative? Currently, it seems that the sort of bet is Wes Streeting is up in the leadership stakes. Longer term, there might be more time for Angela Rayner to make a comeback. And of course, there's all these sort of wild schemes potentially about getting Andy Burnham back in. The key thing, I think, of course, is that both parties are looking at each other. And I think if one moves successfully against their leader, the other might sort of sit on their hands and wait. So I think it's going to be a very fascinating kind of dance of death between the two great parties of British politics.
Do you think whoever was the anonymous leaker or the briefer to the papers suggesting that Sir Keir Starmer would fight any potential leadership challenge, that they regret doing it because, of course, it has backfired, because it's led to more speculation, hasn't it, around Sir Keir Starmer's leadership and also the potential candidates who could replace him?
I certainly think my understanding is of some of the motivations of people involved in their briefings was that they genuinely wanted to send a message saying they wanted to fight. I think there's nothing new about that. Prime ministers should always sort of have the mettle to go there and defend their leadership. But I think clearly, Cameron, what happened was it got sort of conflated into these anti-Wes Streeting briefings as well. And I think the whole thing blew up. So I think it certainly was botched. But I think that the intention was genuine, which was to show that Keir Starmer, who, has made a lot of mistakes, but has got a steel to him, will determine to sort of fight on and keep his leadership come what may next May.
Well, it was certainly botched. I mean, we're all talking now about who the potential successor to Keir Starmer could be. Obviously, the problem with someone like Wes Streeting or Shabana Mahmood is they're seen by the members to be to the right of the Labour Party, and it feels quite unlikely that they would manage to win a leadership election, in which case you have all the damage of a leadership election for the Labour Party and you don't actually end up changing leader at the end of it. Is there some figure who could sort of unite the left and right of the Labour Party? Is Angela Rayner maybe the answer? It does kind of make you wonder what the question is.
Well, look, I think it all depends on sort of coalitions, and the Labour Party is a sifting mass of coalitions where you've got the sort of unions, you've got the sort of different unions themselves. Unite's very different from GMB. You have the soft left. You've also got some of the ones who define themselves now. I think Clive Lewis was once defined as sort of soft left, as much more just anti-Keir Starmer currently. But look, I think that it all depends on sort of maybe there's some sort of dream tickets, etc. All these different parts are interconnected, and I don't think it's clear at the current stage who would win a contest. Obviously, Ed Miliband is the most popular cabinet minister with the members, but he's ruled himself out. So I think it all depends on momentum, Olivia. And we've seen before in leadership contests how important that is once you get out the blocks early. And of course, the other thing to make the point is, I don't think Labour can do what the Conservatives did in the last Parliament and change leader more than once. You can't have a sort of Boris to Liz to Rishi thing. You have to only do it once. And that's what MPs have been saying to me. You've only got one shot at this. So if they're going to take it, they need to be absolutely sure that whoever replaces Keir Starmer is doing better than his ratings in the polls.
OK, Deputy Political Editor of The Spectator, James Heal, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, the countdown to the budget is officially on with less than a week to go, finally, until the Chancellor unveils her latest plan.
Yes, well, I feel like I've heard it all already, to be perfectly honest. But yesterday in South Africa, the Prime Minister refused to rule out manifesto-breaking tax rises next week, saying that politicians have to make difficult decisions against the political backdrop.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer, not Sir Christopher Hope, told GB News' political editor Chris Hope that the budget would be based on Labour values.
Well, we will set out the budget in just a few days' time, but the principles are clear. It'll be a Labour budget with Labour values. That means it will be fair, and it will do three things, or three principles. One is protecting our public services, including, of course, the NHS, where we put record investment in and waiting lists are going down. We'll make sure that we're cutting the debt, vitally important for our country, and that we're bearing down on the cost of living, which, for all your viewers, I don't doubt is going to be the #1 issue. So they're the principles that we'll take into the budget.
Well, joining us now is the director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. Mark, good morning to you. I mean, the Prime Minister there talking about Labour values. I suppose those on the right could accuse him of adopting the politics of envy when it comes to tax rises.
Yes, you're right, Cameron. We're definitely going to see tax going up. The only question is where and by how much. I'm not even sure Keir Starmer or Rachel Reeves know the answer to that now. They've flown so many kites with so many different suggestions. There was a suggestion that income tax, the basic rate, could go up by 2p, possibly offset for workers by national insurance being dropped by 2p. But there's now a suggestion they've rode back from that. The new idea is that there will be a smorgasbord of tax rises. That sounds appetising, doesn't it? That they'll find lots of small things to tax. Milkshakes, for example, might now have a tax, be caught by the sugar tax. They might impose higher taxes on those who have houses in the highest council tax band areas. Looks like there'll be a tax on the gambling industry. Perhaps with £500 million here and £1 billion there, they can make up what is a new black hole. But however they do, it's not going to be pleasant. And Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves have not yet made wholly clear that they'll stick to their manifesto commitments. So we might yet see a full break with the promises they made last year not to raise NICs, income tax or VAT.
Do you think that smorgasbord of taxes in the long run could actually be more damaging than, for example, raising income tax? Because it speaks to me as a lack of vision. You're just sort of scrabbling around desperately behind the sofa to try and find a bit of money. You don't have a kind of vision and direction for what you want the future to be. Do you think actually in the long run that could be a serious issue for Labour?
You're absolutely right, Olivia. That is exactly what it's akin to, scrabbling around down the back of the sofa to hope you find enough pennies to pay your gas bill or whatever it might be. And it makes our tax system ever more complicated as well. We already have the longest tax rulebook on planet Earth. I think it's now about 14 times the length of War and Peace, and even more boring and complicated. And this will make it still more complicated. That's a real disadvantage to the economy. You can pick off a sector here and a sector there if you like, but it will not help the key thing that Labour have really stopped talking about now. Remember when they were talking about their number one priority being economic growth? They would be laser focused on economic growth. The idea here, Olivia, is if you can actually start getting the economy moving rather than flatlining, quite a lot of these problems don't necessarily go away, but they become easier to solve. Because if the economy were to be growing at 2 or 3% a year, rather than bumbling along the bottom, you've got more people in work, you've got more people doing better jobs, you've therefore got more tax receipts coming in. But Labour seem to have rather given up on that project, or at least aren't talking about it enough. And the idea that taxing milkshakes, gambling companies and higher properties is going to do anything for growth would definitely be a complete misnomer. So they're caught between a rock and a hard place. They need to balance off the markets, who I think are increasingly sceptical about lending money to a government that doesn't have a plan. They need to stick to Rachel Reeves' rule that debt will come down. And they need to appease their backbenchers who seem unwilling to accept any sort of meaningful cuts in any area of spending. Balancing those three is extremely difficult, if not impossible. Therefore, I'm expecting the budget to be a bit of a mess when we finally hear it on Wednesday.
Mark, the Chancellor would say, look, she will claim there's a £22 billion black hole in the public finances that need to be filled. She refuses to go back to austerity because she doesn't want to make public services even worse than they already are. So she's kind of stuck, isn't she?
She is pretty stuck. I mean, the problem with this new black hole is we were told after the last budget that she'd fixed it. She wasn't going to have to come back for any more. That was it. It was a one-time grab, and she had now stabilised the economy. You're right, Cameron, that they say they don't want to go back to austerity, whatever that means. But the problem remains that the UK is spending and living well beyond its means. You have to go all the way back to 2001 before a government of any political stripe balanced the books. We've had quarter of a century of not austerity, but of largesse, spending way more than we were bringing in tax revenues. But she can't seem to solve that problem, so spending will remain high. Worse still, the trajectories are year on year, it will go higher and higher. We have an ageing population, for example. That comes with substantial costs. So you don't need to go back to austerity, but it might be an idea to try to live within your means, because otherwise, in attempting to get the deficit down and our debt under control, really what Rachel Reeves is doing is putting cling film over the mouth of a volcano. Well, that doesn't really do much to stop the lava flow.
Well, thank you very much, Mark Littlewood, for that rather depressing interview. I'm not much more excited about the budget than I was, but it's very nice to hear from you this Saturday morning.
Thanks, Olivia.
Thank you. Now, let's see what you've been saying on gbnews.com/your say.
Yeah, on Ukraine, Derry says Europe has to step up to support Ukraine. Trump has shown he is all talk. He has come up against somebody who has intimidated him.
Well, there is a brand new way to take part in the conversation by becoming a friend of GB News for free. Take a look.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Yes, do. And still to come, more than half of young people do not feel there is enough state support to help them get paid jobs. That's according to a new TUC poll. Should the state be doing more to get young people into work? Or should young people take full responsibility?
But next, Shabana Mahmood's immigration reforms made headlines this week. She said today that Labour MPs must stop gaslighting voters about the issue. That's next. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Very good morning to you, Christine.
Good morning to the pair of you and all the watchers and listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look back...
Oh, you still got your hat.
well done.
Oh, good on you.
I think it's shrunk a bit, but still.
I can't believe it's 23 years ago. Can you?
Well, if you can't, no, nor can I. And people come up to me and say whatever they say, and I usually say, do you realise how long ago that was? Oh, 10 years. What? I said, no, it was 2002. It turned people's view of me completely on its head. And I'd gone into the jungle as one of the most hated women in the country, or disliked, whatever you want to say. And people suddenly saw the real me, and, you know, basically I'm quite nice, I'm fun, I'm kind to animals, you know, and when people get to know the real me, they think, oh, well, she's not this awful old witch that the newspapers had told us she was.
Oh, you're always a battle axe, Christine. You'll always be a battle axe. Come on.
You just have to be yourself. And if yourself, your real self, can't cope with the privations and the boredom, because they deliberately make sure that you're bored most of the time. Don't forget, viewers see a fraction of it. And they also make sure that there's a mix of personalities, so that usually there's there's that sort of stuff going on. But, I have to say, a tad envious. First of all, they're in the Australian sunshine. Which would be nice. And I mean, what's not to like about it? You get flown out first class. We went Qantas. I have no idea what. I hope they fly the flag. I had a wonderful time. They flew my other half out, because I said, if I'm going to be away for 3 weeks or so, you will have to fly Neil out as well, because otherwise I shall have to put him into care. So they swallowed that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's economy is at a crossroads.
And this budget day, every decision counts.
From taxes and rent to the cost of living.
Whatever the outcome, the GB News family will be there.
With expert analysis, breaking down what it means for you. Budget day, all day Wednesday.
Only here on the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Now, to look through the top stories of today, we're delighted to be joined by political commentator Eve McQuillan and political reporter at Politics Home, Tom Scottson. We're going to start with this breaking story that the Daily Mail is going to be buying the Telegraph, so tying up the two biggest right-leaning papers. Obviously, probably quite a good thing that there's not going to be Saudi involvement in the Telegraph now. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's better that it's the Daily Mail than if it's, a foreign government or somebody closely linked to a foreign government. But I would still be a little bit anxious about media giants banding together, because we need independence in our journalism. We've seen big criticisms of the BBC this week. We need to be careful that our papers are also independent.
Well, Tom, if this deal goes through, this could be the most powerful right-leaning media group in Britain.
It looks like it's a consolidation, anyway, of the right in the media. And just as we were reflecting on before, I think it is a relief not only to people within the media, but also politicians that look like there could be a foreign power that would have influence in our media. So I think that, of course, that, as you said before, there is a consolidation. It could worry that there is a maybe lack of independent media in thought. But at the same time, it's very good that maybe a foreign power that could be hostile at one point is not intervening.
And what I think is actually quite nice and refreshing to see is that the Telegraph is going to be sold by the looks of it for £500 million. That's a lot of money. We worry about our free press sort of becoming irrelevant in this digital age, but I'm glad newspapers are still worth something, and journalists like us and you guys as well.
Yes, very true.
We still have that.
So let's get on to this interview in The Times with Shabana Mahmood. She's furious about the state of the immigration system, and she's furious, clearly, with MPs who are trying to block what she's doing on immigration. Do you think she is really very worried that these proposals, her quite extreme, radical proposals to shake up the immigration system, just won't get over the line in Parliament? Is that what this is about?
I think she is worried, and I think she is right to be worried. You know, for a lot of Labour members, I'm myself a Labour member, some serious anxiety about these proposals, because Labour MPs will see that they're not fitting with Labour values and not what people want to see and not what people thought that they were running on when they ran for election. So I think it will be very difficult with the backbenchers. We've seen some backbenchers who are usually fairly supportive of the government, definitely not on the left of the Labour Party, people like Stella Creasy coming out and criticising these proposals. So this is a movement that is broader than just the kind of usual suspects who would be critical of Starmer and critical of the administration. So I do think it is a risk that Shabana Mahmood won't get it over the line, and we've seen her coming out and batting quite hard in the press in support of this.
I mean, the Home Secretary would say that it's all very well Labour members just saying that that's not what they wanted when they voted for Labour, but you can't have boatfuls of migrants coming over every single day, and we've seen the effect that it has on local communities, on public services. We've seen some hideous stories about crimes being committed by people who've come illegally to this country. Surely she has to do something about it.
Then manage the system properly. Managing the system properly is what we need to do. For heaven's sake, we live in a digital age. Why are we having people crossing the channel on dangerous journeys when people could apply online? This is ridiculous. We need to manage it properly. We need to get the backlog under control, which, to be fair, they are working on. They have seen improvements on, but people need quick, sensible decisions made promptly, and then that will take the pressure off communities, because what is difficult is people living in these limbo.
Tom, I suppose the worry for Shabana Mahmood is if backbench Labour MPs hijack trying to get this over the line, Labour will lose the election next time around because the British public feel like they haven't done what they said they do, which is stop the boats. And that would then lead to a reform, or what she would see as a right-wing government.
I think you're completely right there, and there's a lot of Labour MPs on the backbenches that haven't come into politics to reduce immigration. They come from charities, maybe solicitors as well, and they look at reducing child poverty. But there are a lot of people, even on the soft left of the Labour Party, that have said to me, OK, this isn't my number one priority, but we're not going to get a hearing from the electorate, and would you rather manage immigration in a Labour way or a reform way?
This is taken my fancy, or this seems a bit odd. Elon Musk, owner of X, and formerly Donald Trump's friend, although he seems to be friendly again with the United States president, he's claiming that in less than 20 years, none of us will be working. How does that work?
I mean, that sounds great, but that's not going to happen, is it? I mean, ridiculous. I think all of these stories that come out where these very rich people, they forget that in order for them to remain very rich, people need to buy stuff. So people need to have money. There needs to be an economy that works for that to continue. In the 1930s, some leading left-wing economists thought that by 2000, we'd only be working 15 hours a week. That didn't happen because we need the economy to keep going.
But AI does really shake things up, doesn't it? I mean, already there are jobs being advertised for AI support, people who are just proofreading what AI is doing. Already sort of jobs like junior copywriters no longer exist because AI is doing the work. And I think there is an issue with those entry-level jobs disappearing because of AI, and then it's very difficult for anyone to get up the ladder. So Elon Musk might be painting this as some sort of utopia where none of us have to work. Actually, it's quite worrying, isn't it?
Oh, no, I think it could be incredibly difficult. You could get, for the first time, the laptop class, which is, you know, maybe young professionals really struggling to get into work because they're competing with AI, which is a lot cheaper to employ. It doesn't have sick days. And, yeah, it could be really difficult. Obviously, there is a part where, for some of the electorate, that it really does work. You know, of course, those that maybe are sailing towards retirement. But for those really trying to get in, it's very difficult to compete.
But then, of course, at some point, those people at the top who do have those high-skilled jobs, who have worked up their way up the career ladder, will retire. And then you need somebody, surely, to replace them. But then the skills...
they won't know how to do it.
Exactly.
Because they'll have never done a proper job before.
So what would the solution be in Elon Musk's utopian world?
I guess it's very difficult. I mean, maybe all I could see is that we'd all have more time for recreational stuff. We'd all do stuff that we'd probably like to do more in our spare time instead of work. But, again, you know, I feel that this is more of a utopia. In actual fact, we probably might be working harder just on different things.
Well, probably working quite hard to correct many of the mistakes that AI make. I always find it really alarming how much is just wrong when you ask ChatGPT. Anyway, thank you very much to Tom. And even before we move on, just want to make a correction there. I said Saudi involvement in the Telegraph. It's actually the UAE that would be involved. But still to come, we'll get the latest from the G20 in South Africa. Plus, should the state be supporting young people to get their first paid jobs?
But first, your latest news headlines from Sophia Wensler.
Good morning. Your headlines at 10:31. Donald Trump says Volodymyr Zelensky will have to approve a proposed peace plan to end the war in Ukraine or risk losing weapons and intelligence. Meanwhile, it's understood European nations, including the UK, France and Germany, are now working on a counter-proposal with Kyiv. Sir Keir Starmer said Ukraine's allies will seek to strengthen a US plan to end the war with Russia when they meet at the G20 summit in South Africa today. Marjorie Taylor Greene has announced her resignation from Congress following a highly publicised falling out with Donald Trump over his reluctance to release files related to Jeffrey Epstein. The owner of the Daily Mail has agreed a £500 million deal to buy the Telegraph newspaper. And Australia have beaten England by 8 wickets in the first Ashes test in Perth. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Yes, well, after the break, we'll be discussing Keir Starmer jetting off to South Africa. Should leaders really be at the G20 having these discussions when in other parts of the world, Trump and Putin seem to be calling all the shots?
And more than half of young people in Britain feel there's not enough state support when it comes to helping them find a job. Is that right? We'll be debating that next.
All of that and much more after a break.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a week of wintry weather in places, it's less cold today. Not exactly mild, though, and feeling unpleasant as a band of rain sweeps its way southeastwards. A wet start for much of England and Wales, away from the far southeast where it is a chilly start. But the rain reaches the southeast during the morning. Spells of rain on and off, but clearing eastwards. And Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern and Western England as well as Wales turning brighter through the morning with some decent sunny spells, albeit with a few showers by the afternoon. Temperatures back towards average. We're talking about 8-9 Celsius typically. Some spots up to the double figures. But we end the day with reasonable sunshine across parts of eastern Scotland at least. Frequent showers coming into western Scotland. And the snow starting to melt over higher ground. It's going to melt gradually, I think, through the weekend because temperatures aren't shooting up. And for Northern Ireland, some decent clear spells as we end the day. Northern and Western England, some patchy cloud, some showers, but otherwise mostly fine. However, it takes much of the afternoon and evening for that rain to clear East Anglia and the southeast. It'll be heavy for a time. And then the next batch of wet and windy weather sweeps in overnight. This is a spell of heavy rain in some western parts and gusty winds. With the wind and the rain, it's going to be a frost-free night generally, although some pockets of northern and eastern Scotland could see a touch of frost by the start of Sunday. Reasonably dry in the east at first, but the area of low pressure bringing the wet and windy weather in, well, that's going to dominate things on Sunday. A very unsettled day with an initial bout of wet weather followed by frequent showers across western and southwestern parts. The wind whipping up through the day, turning particularly windy towards the southwest later, and temperatures typically again about 8 to 11 Celsius.
Britain's economy is at a crossroads.
And this budget day, every decision counts.
From taxes and rent to the cost of living.
Whatever the outcome, the GB News family will be there
with expert analysis breaking down what it means for you. Budget day, all day Wednesday.
Only here on the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. And now let's get a quick update from the G20 in South Africa, where our political editor, Chris Hope, is. Chris, how's it going over there? Oh, it looks like a lovely day over there in South Africa. You're lucky to be away. How's it going over there? We saw your interview with Keir Starmer yesterday. Is it working out well for him there?
Well, I would say it's difficult for Keir Starmer, Olivia, and hi, Cam. Welcome to a boiling hot South Africa. I'm here, of course, at the G20 in Johannesburg. The issue they've got here is the clock is ticking on the government's entire policy towards the Ukraine war. We know that the President Donald Trump has given them until Thursday this week, Ukraine, to agree to a 28-point peace plan, which will be seen in Ukraine, frankly, as a surrender plan, and that's why it's so tricky. Keir Starmer is due to meet with allies. We almost certainly French President Emmanuel Macron and Germany's Friedrich Merz at the G20 shortly to try and discuss how on earth they respond to this. The PM told us overnight that they'll be meeting and discussing and looking at how to strengthen this plan for the next phase of the negotiations. Clearly, the UK is indicating to the US this can't be the end. We can't be giving, as allies of Ukraine, allowing Russia to take hundreds of square kilometres of land in Ukraine, plus a way back into the G8, of course the G7 at the moment. That can't happen, but trying to bring Donald Trump round to that, it looks like it won't evaporate into the sand, has been hoped. This peace plan is a real problem. No wonder President Zelensky said last night to his people they're facing one of the most difficult moments in their history. The choice is between losing its dignity or the risk of losing a key partner. That partner is the USA. The threat is if no deal, no agreement by Thursday, the US will withdraw intelligence and future defence supplies to Ukraine, and that could hand a real advantage to Russia as we go into the deep winter in Ukraine. Real problems there, I think, for the UK in bringing back these negotiations to where the Ukraine want them to be.
Yeah, and Chris, President Zelensky of Ukraine warns of an extremely difficult choice for him and the country. Of course, European allies want to help as much as they can, but how much power do they realistically have? And of course, President Trump himself has kind of snubbed the G20 summit in Johannesburg. He appears to have been doing the deal with his team secretly in Miami with Russia, not involving European allies at all.
That's right, Cameron. I do think it seems to me that the G20, in particular the UK and other key allies, were blindsided by the leak of this 28-point peace plan. Keir Starmer is not going to America early next week, as was reported elsewhere. He's not going there. Of course, the budget comes on Thursday. Very difficult time for him. He flies back to the UK overnight to try and prepare for that budget, but also try and work out what to do next with Ukraine. And when, yes, it could be, I say, the choice now. It looks like this is the moment that's been coming for a while when European allies of Ukraine break with America, and how that lands is very difficult. It might mean more requirements on defence resources from the UK and EU allies to go to Ukraine as the US falls away from the conversation, if that's what happened. But currently, I can't see how Ukraine can accept this offer, and therefore, nor can the European allies. We've been told by Keir Starmer when we've met him that only a deal acceptable to Ukraine will be acceptable to the UK.
Well, thank you very much, Christopher Hope. It is crunch time now for both Ukraine and actually the rest of Europe. For now, we're just moving on to our debate. More than half of young people don't feel there is enough state support to help them get paid jobs. That's a new poll from the TUC.
Yes, almost half of respondents to that survey said that they do not feel there is enough support to get the careers advice and guidance they need at schools and colleges.
But should the state be doing more to get young people into work, or should young people actually be taking more responsibility? Joining us now is entrepreneur Mike Green and the editor of Tribune magazine, Carl Hansen. Mike, I'm going to start with you. To me, this seems insane. Why would it be the state's responsibility to get young people jobs? Surely this is the epitome of the age of entitlement.
Do you know, people say they don't want a nanny state, and yet we seem to be wanting the state to do more of what we do. And we need to teach children and young adults responsibility. We need to let them understand that it's not the state's responsibility to look after them. And we need to teach parents that it is their responsibility until their young adults or children get a job to be accountable and look after them. I was listening to GB last night, and you know, there was talk there about parents wanting the schools to do breakfast now because they needed time for a coffee or in case they forgot to feed their children. I was a governor at a school, and we were having to teach children coming in how to wipe their bum and use a knife and fork. And I'm not exaggerating. There is too much admonishing responsibility of parenting to the state. And the more we do, the less children will do and the more they'll expect to be done. They need to get a job, but we need to encourage that by not making it easy to not work, if you like. I absolutely am against any idea that the state is responsible for getting them a job.
Carl, what do you think?
With respect, I think that's nonsense. Unemployment is an economic issue. It's not a personal failing of individuals. And the reason why youth unemployment is high is for the simple reason that there aren't enough jobs to go around. So, of course, it's the responsibility of the state to step in and create those jobs and opportunities. There hasn't been a sudden explosion of laziness from young people. There has been an increase in unemployment, and it's young people who are bearing the brunt of that.
But Carl, when you suggest that it's the state's responsibility to step in and create jobs, it's businesses that create jobs, not the state. Shouldn't what the state be doing is lowering taxes for businesses? And actually what they seem to be doing is hiking taxes on businesses.
It's the state's responsibility to create the conditions that both for the state and the private sector to create jobs. And that means that the state has to have an active and interventionist industrial strategy. If there's weak economic growth, if industry is doing poor, then there aren't going to be the jobs and opportunities. I would disagree on the point about low taxes. I actually think that the solution to the problems we're facing in Britain is to have a more active state to support manufacturing and industrial planning more, and have those types of interventions create the jobs that everybody, young people included, need.
Mike, is there an argument that the state should get involved in terms of allowing young people to be motivated, to give them the work ethic to go out and get the job themselves, rather than using taxpayers' money in order to create jobs, as Carl appears to be suggesting?
Well, firstly, let's address the fact that there's no jobs. What absolute codswallop. You know, their military are struggling to get people. I was an amazing NPC centre last week where the young people who are getting involved in uniformed services, they've got discipline, they've got focus, they've got ambition. It was incredible to see when you get them in that right environment. There's a massive shortage in construction jobs, and yet apprenticeship is a great way, if you're not going to university, to get a skill, to have an income that isn't going to be affected by AI, and we're not building the homes that we know we need to build. Retail, hospitality, how many areas do I need to go in where there are endless numbers of jobs and businesses are struggling to get people? It's not that the jobs aren't there, it's that we haven't taught them about the pride that comes from taking a job, the need for them to take a job, and encouraging them to do that job, half positively, half by sort of pushing them, if you like. It was interesting that this report is from the TUC, because it's kind of like, I think it's biased in the sense of the way it was asked, probably, that's my personal opinion. But young people, when they're given the chance to work, when they do a
Mike,
job...
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there because we're just coming to the end. Carl, sorry as well, you're looking angry at that, and we're not going to give you a chance to reply, I'm afraid. But thank you very much to both of you.
Thank you so much. Now, still to come, we'll be joined by international journalist Hayley Gamble, who has interviewed Vladimir Putin. We'll get her thoughts on the Ukrainian peace deal. But first, if you're in some search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's an unsettled day on Sunday in the UK, but it's also unsettled across parts of Greece with blustery showers. Meanwhile, for the Canaries, not too bad. Madeira seeing sunny spells and plenty of settled weather for Spain and parts of Portugal, although northern parts of Portugal into the south of France there will be some rain, and it's showery across Italy, but more so for parts of Greece and Croatia, where there'll be some heavy downpours and strong winds. Very unsettled Central Med next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Just coming up to 10:50, and the US has delivered a stark ultimatum to Ukraine: accept a controversial peace deal or risk losing the weapons and intelligence.
If the deal goes ahead, Vladimir Putin would walk away with full ownership of the Donbass regions as well as Crimea.
With us now in the studio is international journalist and chief international anchor at IMI Media Group, Hadley Gamble. Hadley, good morning to you. And you're in quite a unique position, because I don't think there's many people in the world who've not only met President Putin from the West, but also have interviewed him. What was that experience like, and what sense did you get about his state of mind in the run-up? Because, of course, you interviewed him before the invasion of Ukraine.
To set the scene for you, this was October of 2021, and this was at the height of
President Putin's gas war, if you will, on the West. European gas prices were up 400%. Those of us who follow energy markets already saw the seeds of what was to come. And it was difficult at that point for other people, you know, whether they're in the West or elsewhere, to get their minds around the fact that this is a guy that means business, and he's going to, you know, pull all the levers that he possibly can to undermine Western democracies in terms of their strength in pushing back. You've got to remember that in the 20 years that this man has been in power, he has repeatedly said, if NATO continues to expand, I'm going to have to respond. He's made it very clear. He said it again and again. And somehow, you know, we were all collectively deaf, if you will. But at that time, the president was sort of refusing to say, I'm using energy as a weapon, while at the same time clearly doing so. And if you take a step back and think about that as the prelude to war, the footing to war, it all kind of becomes very, very clear, because at the end of the day, he was essentially making certain that Europe, Germany, the rest of us, we're not going to be able to afford to continue any long-term conflict. And that's exactly what's happened because of the impact on the gas prices and energy prices generally, right? And we've seen this playing out over the last several years.
So what happens now? Because to an outsider, it looks as though this peace plan essentially involves the complete capitulation of Ukraine. Is Zelensky going to accept it? If he doesn't, what happens?
It's a question of leverage. What leverage does Zelensky have at this point? Because this is immense. It's very difficult to overstate the impact of what this corruption scandal has done to this man at home, because we're talking about the idea that there was this, you know, plan essentially by those closest to him to defraud, you know, the energy sector of $100 million. And it's implicated those at the very, very heart of his circle. So at the end of the day, is this a lame duck president, first of all? Second of all, what leverage, again, does he have? We have a G20 summit where the United States isn't even present. How do you even have a meeting like that without the United States at the table? You really, really don't. Western leaders, you know, whether it be in Germany and France, here in the United Kingdom, they've all pledged their support to Ukraine. But what does that even mean? I mean, every country in the West other than the United States is essentially broke. So, you know, what can they really do long term? At the end of the day, Ukraine is dependent on the United States for these weapons, right? So if the United States says, okay, well, this is the plan that we've given you. If you don't want to play ball with us, then we're just taking those weapons off the table. Where does that leave Ukraine? So it's a very stark choice for him. But at the end of the day, even his own people want peace.
And even, I mean, President Zelensky, of course, isn't here to defend himself against that corruption scandal that you alluded to. But I think the worry when it comes to this 28-point peace plan, for a lot of people who watching at home who have seen the images of Russian missiles destroying hospitals in Ukraine and all the rest of it, is that it appears to just be making Putin essentially, he's won. He's got everything he wanted at the same time. But of course,
I would say that, remember, this is a man, yes, there are no obvious rivals to Putin at home, but think about what it's done to the Russian economy. You know, we had a couple of years of extreme growth because he was switching to a military-based economy. But at the end of the day, putting all that emphasis on military hardware does nothing for, you know, the overall GDP of your country. And I'm talking about long-term. This is a country, whereas all of us in the West are focused very much on the AI race, on putting people to work, on what the future of jobs will look like. None of that has been done in Russia. So the long-term implications of what he has done have really damaged, you know, the future of Russia. And I think that, you know, he's no fool. He does realize that.
Yes.
Thank you very much to Hadley Gamble there. Fascinating talk to someone who's interviewed the president of Russia.
Certainly has. We've got lots more coming up on Saturday Morning Live, including today's top stories. We'll go live to Chelmsford as well with a migrant hotel protests. That's after your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Not feeling quite as cold today, though there is going to be plenty of cloudy skies and also some fairly wet weather too. The good news is it should brighten up for many this afternoon, particularly across many northern areas. But where we see this frontal system slowly pushing its way in towards the southeast, that's where we'll see the bulk of the cloud and some rain through the course of this afternoon. Quite blustery, underly cloudy skies through today too, and also some heavy downpours starting to push into central parts of England, parts of the south and southeast. But brightening up nicely across Wales, parts of southwest England, also to the north of this rain band, though we can't rule out some showers just pushing into western coasts of Scotland, and not feeling quite as cold, but still feeling fairly chilly under cloudier skies. Now, to finish off into this evening, still quite wet across many areas, particularly across parts of the southeast where we could still see some heavy downpours. A little drier towards the far west, though there is still going to be plenty of cloud. Can't rule out some showers just skirting their way through in from the Irish Sea, and once again plenty of showers around coasts of Scotland. That's away from the far northeast though. Plenty of dry, clear skies here, but that's where it's going to turn chilly overnight, so likely quite a widespread frost across the northeast of Scotland, possibly some icy stretches. Eventually the rain will clear across the far southeast and remaining dry for a time before another band of very heavy squally showers starts to move into Northern Ireland and many western areas of the UK. So another wet start here, but elsewhere mostly cloudy and dry, and still feeling fairly chilly by Sunday morning, but the lowest temperatures are likely to be across clear skies in northeast Scotland. Sunday is set to be a very unsettled day once again. Some very heavy showers merging together to bring long and persistent spells of rain, brightening up across many areas of England and Wales, but still plenty of showers and some quite strong winds too at times, particularly through into the Bristol Channel. Still slightly milder than of late, highs reaching 10 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good morning, it's 11 o'clock on Saturday, the 22nd of November, live across the UK. This is Saturday Morning Live.
Very aware energy bills are too high, and if there's one issue, I think, for your viewers and for families and communities across the country, above all else, is the cost of living.
Yes, budget pressure intensifies this morning as the Prime Minister recognises the cost of living pressure and fails to rule out manifesto-breaking tax rises. We'll find out what it means for the money in your pocket.
Well, it comes as Sir Keir Starmer tells GB News' political editor Christopher Hope that he still wants to be Prime Minister in 2034.
And if he doesn't like it, then, you know, they should just keep fighting, I guess. Well, at some point, he's going to have to accept something. You know, he hasn't accepted. You remember right in the Oval Office not so long ago, I said, you know.
President Trump has issued an ultimatum to Ukraine, saying they must sign his proposed peace plan by Thursday. President Zelensky, meanwhile, said it was one of the most difficult days in our country's history.
And we will get the latest from G20 in Johannesburg.
Shabana Mahmood's immigration reforms made headlines this week. She said that today, Labour must stop gaslighting voters about the issue. Will backbenchers get in the way of her radical reforms?
And pink ladies are protesting in Chelmsford today against the use of migrant hotels in the name of female safety. We'll go live there on the ground.
I mean, we'll also be talking about that Breakfast Club story, which is quite astonishing, isn't it? This idea that parents are going to be paid to let their children go to school to have breakfast. Why don't children want that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are a bit annoyed that taxpayers are actually going to be the ones paying for it. But the biggest stories, the boldest opinions and liveliest debates over the next hour. I'm Cameron Walker.
And I'm Olivia Utley, and your weekend starts here.
We've had a really interesting interview with Shabana Mahmood in the Times newspaper. Essentially worrying, I think, that the backbench Labour MPs are going to hijack her plans to stop the vote, or at least attempt to stop the vote.
It does feel as though Shabana Mahmood is being sort of pushed on both sides on this. You've got Kemi Badenoch writing in the Times today, and Nigel Farage saying too that, you know, Labour sort of got the right idea, but they're not going far enough. They're not being bold enough. They're not promising to leave the ECHR. And then on the other side, you've got Labour left-wing MPs and Lib Dems too, saying that this isn't the approach we should be taking at all, and basically saying that there's nothing really that wrong with open borders. I wouldn't fancy being the Home Secretary.
No, I really wouldn't. And of course, she talked about herself in quite expletive terms in the chamber about her own experience with racism, and she's essentially saying, look, if Labour does not get this migrants deal through, we're going to lose the next election, and that will lead to, of course, Nigel Farage becoming Prime Minister, or maybe Kemi Badenoch, although not according to the polls anyway. But she doesn't want a right-wing government, and of course that could be what she's left with.
Well, I think it might be what she's left with. I think Shabana Mahmood has probably got the right idea there. She's got a bit of political nous, I think, the Home Secretary, but her backbenchers do seem to be against her at the moment. Well, let us know what you think about that and everything else. Send in your views, post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/your say.
But before anything else, it's time for your news with Sophia Wensler.
Cameron, Olivia, thank you. Good morning. These are your headlines. It's just gone 11 o'clock. Donald Trump says Volodymyr Zelensky will have to approve a proposed peace plan to end the war in Ukraine or risk losing weapons and intelligence. The US president says Kyiv has a week to decide, but Zelensky has warned that Ukraine risks losing its dignity and freedom. The controversial 28-point proposal would see Vladimir Putin walk away with full ownership over the Donbas regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, as well as Crimea. Meanwhile, it's understood Russia will be freed from Western sanctions, rejoin the G7 and take back the majority of its frozen assets under Donald Trump's peace plan for Ukraine. The Russian president has been cautiously welcoming the US proposal and said they could form the basis for a final peace settlement. Meanwhile, it's understood European nations, including the UK, France and Germany, are now working on a counter-proposal with Kyiv. Sir Keir Starmer said Ukraine's allies will seek to strengthen the US deal to end the war with Russia when they meet at the G20 summit in South Africa today. The Prime Minister has been speaking at the summit, referencing crises around the world.
A moment of mounting competition and crises around the world. And that, I think, has been mentioned by pretty well every contribution so far. Russia's ongoing unjustified war in Ukraine. The shockwaves of that invasion are still reverberating through global markets today.
Donald Trump nor Russian President Vladimir Putin are attending the G20 today. Elsewhere, a new poll has revealed the Tories would win just 14 seats if a general election were called now. According to The Telegraph, some Tory insiders think the party is in danger of being consigned to the history books. The poll predicts Reform would win a 46-seat majority, raising questions over Kemi Badenoch's leadership of the party. Marjorie Taylor Greene has announced her resignation from Congress following a highly publicised falling out with Donald Trump. In recent weeks, the 51-year-old Republican Congresswoman had clashed with the US president on issues such as his reluctance over releasing files related to Jeffrey Epstein. In a video posted to her X account last night, the former Trump loyalist said her last day in office would be January the 5th next year.
I refuse to be a battered wife, hoping it all goes away and gets better. If I am cast aside by the president and the MAGA political machine and replaced by neocons, big pharma, big tech, military-industrial war complex, foreign leaders, and the elite donor class that can never, ever relate to real Americans, then many common Americans have been cast aside and replaced as well.
And the owner of the Daily Mail has agreed a £500 million deal to buy The Telegraph. The Daily Mail and General Trust has signed an agreement with Redbird IMI to acquire the Telegraph Media Group, and they are now in a period of exclusive talks to finalise the terms of the transaction. Meanwhile, Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy has said she will review the potential new deal. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Cameron and Olivia.
Thank you, Sophia, and welcome back to Saturday Morning Live with Cameron Walker and me, Olivia Utley.
Now, Donald Trump is not attending the G20 summit in South Africa, instead issuing an ultimatum to Ukraine from afar.
So Keir Starmer, Volodymyr Zelensky and Emmanuel Macron and Friedrich Merz leaders agreed to coordinate partners and allies in the coming days in Johannesburg in a plan to end the war.
Well, the US president says Kyiv has until Thursday, Thanksgiving, to accept the plan. President Zelensky reacted by saying now is one of the most difficult days in our history.
Well, moments ago, Sir Keir Starmer spoke about current world affairs at the G20.
A moment of mounting competition and crises around the world. And that, I think, has been mentioned by pretty well every contribution so far. Russia's ongoing unjustified war in Ukraine. The shockwaves of that invasion are still reverberating through global markets today.
Well, we're joined by the US political commentator, John Laboutier. Good morning to you, John. I'm going to be frank here and blunt. How much relevance does Sir Keir Starmer have at the G20 here when it comes to what's going on in Ukraine? Because it appears to be President Trump running the show, with President Putin of Russia working with him to get this deal across the line.
Well, I think Starmer working with Schultz and Macron and maybe Meloni from Italy, together, they do have influence on Trump. And we have to realize that at the moment, Trump is a weakened president. The losses in our elections 2 weeks ago, the loss on the Epstein case, the files, everything's happening to Trump is weakening him politically. And he even has trouble among the MAGA coalition. And the one thing he still has is the ability, he thinks, to conduct foreign policy, and this Ukraine thing is his baby. And he listens too much to Putin. And so it's going to be Starmer, Macron, Schultz, especially those three, who stand up quietly behind, but loudly behind the scenes, quietly, publicly, stand up to Trump and back him off some of the stuff in this deal. This deal that's proposed, this 25-point plan, is written in the Kremlin. And it would be a disaster for Ukraine to accept it as it's proposed. Changes are going to have to be made. And that's what I think is going on right now in Johannesburg and will go on all week long.
But Donald Trump doesn't tend to back down. Once he's decided something, his mind is set. He's been very, very explicit. It would be awkward for him now to try, and he doesn't really have a ladder to climb down here, which makes it feel as though we're heading to some sort of standoff. You've got Donald Trump not wanting to back down, and you've got European leaders saying they won't accept a deal unless Ukraine accepts the deal. So you might end up with some sort of split between the US and other European countries. What will it do to the special relationship, for example?
Well, let me just challenge one thing. Have you heard the term about Trump, taco? Trump always chickens out. So I contend with your position. Trump backs down all the time. He's backing down on the tariffs last week. He backed down on the Epstein files. I'm not saying he's going to blow off this deal that he is proposing, but I think he even said yesterday, after he announced this Thanksgiving deadline, which is this coming Thursday, he said, but we may extend it if the talks are going well. So there is some play there, and he is malleable enough. And if the Western Europeans band together, as they have, you remember after Anchorage, that disastrous meeting with Putin, and Zelensky was coming to Washington to see Trump that Monday, who came with Zelensky? Starmer, Macron, Schultz. They all invited themselves to the White House, in effect, to surround Zelensky with a cordon of comrades and friends. And that's happening again right now.
John, you mentioned Anchorage there, and of course, we all know that President Trump perhaps didn't get what he wanted out of that meeting. No deal was struck. It appears that President Putin didn't want to budge. So if, as you suggest, the European allies as a collective can influence President Trump to amend this deal, he takes it back to the Kremlin. The Kremlin are still not going to budge. So surely we're going to be in the same situation that we were immediately after Anchorage.
Correct. And the reason for that is what we don't know. We don't know what it is Putin has on Trump, why Trump has this fealty to Putin. You see in occasional public comments, Trump expresses frustration with Putin, that they have these nice phone calls where Putin's all nice to him, but then Putin never changes his position. And I think if Trump acts like he's frustrated over it, but then he always scrambles back to do Putin's bidding. If Trump really wanted to settle this thing properly, he would announce a huge transfer of arms, military arms, to the Ukraine military. That is the one thing that will back down Putin, but Trump won't do it.
So what's going to happen then? If you fast forward a year, we're in the end of 2020, what are we in, 2026 it'll be. Will that war still be going on?
Well, obviously, none of us want that, but I suspect it will be going on. The best you could see is a pause, some sort of negotiated truce maybe, that won't really be the end of this thing. And I don't think it'll ever end, to be truthful, until Putin is no longer running Russia. That he is the one guy that wants the war. The Russian nation wants no part of the war, but they're under the thumb of a brutal dictator. And so who's going to tell him no?
Yeah, well, John, just very, very briefly, you mentioned, of course, that what could end this war is the US transferring a load of arms and weaponry to the Ukrainian army. Isn't that a big gamble, though? Because President Putin has access to nuclear weapons and, a lot of influence when it comes to perhaps allies in China, North Korea. So there could be a pretty bad worst-case scenario if that were the case.
Well, it is, and you have to calculate, would Vladimir Putin escalate the war to a nuclear conflict? And you have to assess that. I don't think he would. I think, I can't imagine that he would,
even if he's backed into a corner?
Well, the corner would be, we settle this thing on a better deal, better terms for Ukraine. I mean, the idea in this agreement that Ukraine would sign this thing and then Crimea is officially forever part of Russia, number one. Number two, Ukraine can never join NATO. Why would they agree to something like that? Number three, their own military in their own country is capped at 660,000 soldiers. Who the hell is Russia to tell my country, if I'm Ukrainian, who are you to tell me how many soldiers I can have in my army? This is ridiculous.
Well, it's a huge negotiation, John. I'm really sorry we're out of time, but thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your insight there.
And a brief breaking update on the Russia-Ukraine war. Ukraine will consult with its partners on steps for ending Russia's war on Ukraine in the coming days, the Ukrainian president's office said on Saturday. President Volodymyr Zelensky has approved the composition of the delegation, which will be led by the head of his office and includes top security officials, as well as directives for relevant negotiations, according to the statement on Telegram.
Yes, Ukraine will never be an obstacle to peace, and representatives of the Ukrainian state will defend the legitimate interests of the Ukrainian people and foundations of European security. That's what the President's office has said.
Well, to politics at home, and Sir Keir Starmer has said that Nigel Farage is not fit to be Prime Minister unless he calls out racist comments in his party.
Well, the Prime Minister spoke to GB News' political editor, Christopher Hope, in Johannesburg. He went on to face down those plotting a leadership battle to oust him, saying that he will be PM in 2034.
Here's what Sir Keir Starmer had to say in South Africa.
Finally, on your future, you said in the Daily Mirror this week you'll fight the next general election. If you win, will you serve a full second term?
Yes, I've always said this is a decade of national renewal. I know that we're elected on a mandate of change.
Yep.
That change is bearing down on the cost of living. Do people feel better off?
Yeah.
It's making sure our public services are turned around, and our NHS in particular, and people feel safe and secure in their community. I'll be judged on that at the next election, quite rightly, by the electorate, and every day that is what I focus on.
Okay.
Well, elsewhere, polling leaked to the Telegraph newspaper suggests that the Tories would win just 14 seats. Yes, 14, if the general election was called now.
Well, joining us now is former leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Vince Cable. Now, your party's looking in pretty ship shape, but both Labour and the Conservatives seem to be struggling. Just 14 seats for the Conservatives at the next election. Is that believable?
It is believable. I think we may be at one of those historic turning points. It happened a century ago when the ancestors of the Liberals disappeared. They'd been a party of government for 100 years, and it could happen again. And you may well get a reformation of the right in British politics, in which reform take a dominant role. That wouldn't surprise me.
Sir Vince Cable, Kemi Badenoch, some insiders telling the Telegraph this morning that she's been too passive in her first months as leadership. She's not come up with any real policies. And what's happened when it comes to the vote on the right is that Reform UK has filled that political void. What's your analysis of that point?
Well, she's falling between two stools, unfortunately. I mean, by trying to pass herself off as a slightly weaker version of what the Reform Party are offering, she's driving a lot of moderate One Nation Conservatives to support the Liberal Democrats. I mean, that's partly why we did very well at the last election and got ourselves up to a record number of seats, over 70. And I think at the next election, whatever the share of the national vote, I think we will substantially increase our number of seats and become a major force in the next parliament.
Well, we all know what a Conservative leadership contest looks like because they have them all the time. We went through all sorts of prime ministers in the last government. But a Labour leadership contest, we haven't actually seen one of those in a very, very long time. Do you think it's possible that the Labour Party do oust Keir Starmer? And if they were to do so, when would it be? Do you think it would be this year, perhaps after the May elections? And, of course, the big question, who would it be?
Well, I think it's virtually certain they will replace the leader after the local elections in May next year. The question is whether it happens beforehand. I mean, I think what unfortunately is happening, and it's unfortunate for the country, is that this government, with a vast majority, is totally incapable of making big, difficult decisions. I mean, they're backed off the tricky issues around welfare reform, whether it's disability or the triple lock. They're now finding they can't follow through on their commitment to raise income tax, which I think any economic observer realizes is absolutely fundamental to getting the public finances back into a decent shape. And if they can't make difficult decisions with a very large parliamentary majority, it sort of demonstrates there's a sort of fundamental weakness of leadership. The problem they have is if they went to somebody further to the left in the parliamentary party, this will then cause continuing problems with the people who call themselves Blairites and vice versa. So that there is no obvious replacement who would be fundamentally better and stronger, so that they are in a difficult position. But we hope, hopefully within the next 48 hours when we get the budget, we'll have some thinking, a bit of strength, a bit of commitment, and some difficult decisions, and hopefully restore a bit of backbone to the government.
So Keir Starmer says, look, don't judge me now, judge me at the next election, which of course could be in 2029. So do you think this budget that's happening on Wednesday is Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer's last chance to make the public feel like they're better off under a Labour government?
Well, it's not a one-off event. I mean, the fundamental problem is that when the Labour government came into power, they assumed and hoped, of course, that it would restore economic growth, and it simply hasn't happened. And that's partly because it's an inherently very difficult thing to do. You can't just press a switch and produce economic growth, but partly also because they're not doing very much. I mean, a key area is house building, and we're seeing house building actually falling rather than rising. And if we can't get sort of basic economic growth, then they can't fulfill the expectations the public had, and they're going to do extremely badly politically. So economic growth is at the heart of this, and it simply isn't happening.
Well, thank you very much, Vince Cable. And yes, yet again, all eyes are on that budget on Wednesday.
Yes, they certainly are. And let's see what you've been saying on gbnews.com/your say.
Well, talking about the G20 summit, Jane said, what's the point of Starmer being there? None of them will influence Trump. Sort of what we were saying as well. There's a brand new way to take part in the conversation by becoming a friend of GB News for free. Take a look.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Yes, do. We certainly love reading your comments here at the desk. And still to come, should the government be providing more breakfast clubs for children at schools? One tweet from the Department of Education went viral. We'll get the latest on the row.
But next, fresh revelations in the papers today about the pension that some junior doctors could receive. Can you guess the figure? It is enormous, to give you a clue. That's next. This is Saturday Morning Live on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back, and there's only a few weeks left until Christmas, and time is running out for you to enjoy it all on us this year. That's because 40 grand in tax-free cash could be yours, as well as £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket, and a fantastically festive GB News goodie bag.
And in the best news, you'll get it all in time for the big day. Make sure you don't miss out. Here's all the details you'll need to make it yours.
There's just 33 days until Christmas, and it's the final week to see how you can enjoy it on us. That's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 fantastic. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family, the tree and decorations. £1,000 in vouchers to buy a slap-up Christmas lunch at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. Plus, we're going to get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck. And now to look through the top stories of the day, we're delighted to be joined again by political commentator Eve McQuillan and political reporter at Politics Home, Tom Scotson. Now, I'm going to start with this story in the Times. Junior doctors could get a guaranteed pension of nearly £125,000 a year when they retire. Tom, could you just walk us through that? Because obviously junior doctors don't earn £125,000 a year. How does this work?
So this is over a 40-year period, and it's contingent on the junior doctor becoming a consultant, and this is if they are or they've just finished their postgraduate. So it's over a long period of time, and obviously this will have to be adjusted to inflation, because how the doctors' pensions work is that it keeps up with inflation plus 1.5%. Now, I think obviously the difficulty is, in thinking political terms, is that they've tried to introduce more generous pensions for doctors to retain more and obviously reduce the waiting lists. But in actual fact, the IFS came out with some evidence that said that this actually isn't working, and it's very misunderstood, the type of pension scheme. So there's a very difficult part where, even though these are pretty generous pensions compared to most of the private sector, if you're not being able to retain doctors, then it's going to be very difficult to bring waiting lists down and really attain much of what the Labour Party stands for.
I mean, I think, Eve, lots of our viewers will see that headline figure of junior doctors to get £125,000 when they retire and think, junior doctors have an amazing deal. What are they doing? Going on strike, walking out again, 28% pay rise, 6-figure pension. What are they doing?
Well, this figure is pretty misleading, I've got to say. If you look at what's likely to happen with inflation, that amounts to a pension of around £40,000 a year, which is similar to what a consultant gets now. And nobody's in any dispute. Senior doctors are well paid. Doctors have good pensions. But the dispute with the junior doctors is about how junior doctors, or I should say resident doctors, are paid at that low level. And it's also about when they first start out. And it's also about the lack of training places, because we have real bottlenecks in the system where people who've got a medical degree then can't get on and start training in the NHS and then can't become doctors. And we're seeing unemployed doctors, which is ridiculous when we've got people waiting and huge delays still.
Well, I believe they also are demanding a 26% pay rise. But the problem, Wes Streeting is essentially saying, well, we don't have the money to give you a 26% pay rise. And then by going out on strike, the waiting lists aren't going down.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of those things are true. You know, Wes is right that the public finances are in a difficult situation. It's also the case that there are other staff who work in the NHS who haven't seen the same pay rises, but they're talking about pay restitution so that they're at the same level of pay they would have been had it continued in line with inflation based on 2008. And of course, we've all seen pay cuts in real terms since 2008.
Well, I think that's the point. We have all seen pay cuts in real terms. Previously, the public has been relatively sympathetic to doctors going on strike. They don't think doctors are being paid enough. The polls, though, look as though that public sympathy for doctors is beginning to melt away. Do you think Wes Streeting would actually have the support of the public if he said, look, no more strikes and we're not giving you a pay rise?
I think so, and I think even looking at polling now, it's not just to do with junior doctors, but it's to do with public spending in general. I think most voters now are in favour of bigger public spending cuts than they were in 2008 and even just after financial crises in the 1990s. So I think that even after coming up with a generous pay increase after he came into office, I think now that Wes Streeting looking to the public and trying to persuade them, I think he'd have an easier ride than he did 12 months ago.
Meanwhile, sticking with the NHS, parents have branded that it's a betrayal of children for the NHS to do a drug trial when it comes to puberty blockers for trans children. Eve, what do you make of this?
So, I mean, I think this is obviously a difficult situation, but what we're seeing here is that there was a CAS review which said that there wasn't the evidence base that said that puberty blockers are safe. And so now we're seeing a trial to show, you know, what is the information, are these puberty blockers safe or not? We also have to remember that going through puberty for a trans child who does not want to go through that puberty is an incredibly distressing experience. We see high suicide rates amongst young trans people, so there needs to be a balance. And I think these decisions need to be taken by children, their parents and doctors out of the pages of the Telegraph.
I mean, Tom, the idea of trans children I find quite alarming. You hear these people who were trans as children, who transitioned as children, had very serious surgery, then grew up and said, I didn't want to transition at all. I was a confused, sometimes mentally ill young child. I think it's pretty astonishing that there's even talk about puberty blockers coming back at all.
I think this is just, this Anyway trial just received regulatory approval, and obviously, as you said, that it has received some real pushback here. I think that Wes Streeting just made a statement on X, really trying to toe the line by saying that he will follow the evidence of whatever, and I think he's really looking now at not only the country that agree with that position and are very fearful of this, but also looking at maybe to the Labour membership. And if he's seen to be against this, perhaps, and then maybe progressive voters really push away from him in the membership, then that will be a real problem. So, yes, it's an incredibly controversial topic, one that's obviously very emotive, and it's going to be very difficult to get right.
OK, Tom, Eve, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it. And the Department of Health and Social Care spokesperson said young people with gender incongruence need access to high-quality, safe and effective care. We are following the CAS review, which was clear that the evidence on care for these children is lacking, and proposed this research to help provide it.
Medical care must always be based on solid evidence, and children's safety must come first. Well, lots more to come on the show, but first, let's get the news headlines with Sophia Wensworth.
Your headlines at 11:33. Ukraine says it will consult with its partners on steps for ending Russia's war on Ukraine in the coming days. It comes after Donald Trump said Volodymyr Zelensky will have to approve a proposed peace plan. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer said Ukraine's allies will seek to strengthen a US plan to end the war with Russia when they meet at the G20 summit in South Africa today. Marjorie Taylor Greene has announced her resignation from Congress after falling out with Donald Trump over his reluctance to release files related to Jeffrey Epstein. The owner of the Daily Mail has agreed a £500 million deal to buy the Telegraph newspaper. And Australia have beaten England by 8 wickets in the first Ashes Test in Perth. Those are your headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Not feeling quite as cold today, though there is going to be plenty of cloudy skies and also some fairly wet weather too. The good news is it should brighten up for many this afternoon, particularly across many northern areas. But where we see this frontal system slowly pushing its way in towards the southeast, that's where we'll see the bulk of the cloud and some rain through the course of this afternoon. Quite blustery, underly cloudy skies through today too, and also some heavy downpours starting to push into central parts of England, parts of the south and southeast. But brightening up nicely across Wales, parts of southwest England, also to the north of this rain band, though we can't rule out some showers just pushing into western coasts of Scotland, and not feeling quite as cold, but still feeling fairly chilly under cloudier skies. Now to finish off into this evening, still quite wet across many areas, particularly across parts of the southeast where we could still see some heavy downpours. A little drier towards the far west, though there is still going to be plenty of cloud. Can't rule out some showers just skirting their way through in from the Irish Sea, and once again plenty of showers around coasts of Scotland. That's away from the far northeast though, plenty of dry clear skies here, but that's where it's going to turn chilly overnight, so likely quite a widespread frost across the northeast of Scotland, possibly some icy stretches. Eventually the rain will clear across the far southeast and remaining dry for a time before another band of very heavy squally showers starts to move into Northern Ireland and many western areas of the UK. So another wet start here, but elsewhere mostly cloudy and dry, and still feeling fairly chilly by Sunday morning, but the lowest temperatures are likely to be across clear skies in northeast Scotland. Sunday is set to be a very unsettled day once again. Some very heavy showers merging together to bring long and persistent spells of rain, brightening up across many areas of England and Wales, but still plenty of showers and some quite strong winds too at times, particularly through into the Bristol Channel. Still slightly milder than of late, highs reaching 10 degrees.
Britain's economy is at a crossroads.
And this budget day, every decision counts.
From taxes and rent to the cost of living.
Whatever the outcome, the GB News family will be there
with expert analysis breaking down what it means for you.
Budget day, all day Wednesday.
Only here on the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. And as part of Labour's plan for change, the Department of Education are funding more breakfast clubs. A recent tweet of theirs went viral.
This is absolutely astonishing. Free breakfast clubs are transforming mornings for 5,000 children, is what they say. That's 95% precious hours back each year, while children get a nutritious start to their day. It sounds very admirable, of course.
Well, one woman in particular made the headline, suggesting that the breakfast clubs would be helpful if you forgot to feed your child in the morning.
Home, it can be quite a task getting them ready for school because they're pretty crazy. They are kids in the morning, as we all know.
You're rushing, you forget if they've eaten, so it gives them a bit of stability.
Look, I'm holding my head in my hands.
I have to say,
here.
we are rolling our eyes in the studio.
The problem is, lifestyle expert Annette Kello joins us. Annette, welcome to the studio. Obviously, it is incredibly admirable to help support parents who perhaps need the extra money, have extra shifts or whatever. But who did the PR for that video? Trying to sell it to the taxpayers who, of course, are funding this, but you're going to allow a parent to go to a coffee shop or give them a reason to remember to feed their own children. Seems farcical.
Yes, well, that one went down like a lead balloon, didn't it? And the comms team needs to be sacked. But I think we should also talk about the financials with it, because they've already done a pilot scheme over 750 schools, and they were giving 60p to £1 per child. But what they found was they were losing money. So it actually cost them about £1.50. Many of the schools pulled out because they were £4,000 to £9,000 running at a loss. So we then go on to say, well, how is this going to go forward in the future? Now, we saw that video. It was shocking. The comments were shocking. And things like going for a coffee, having a nap, and maybe forgetting to feed your children is not really why the Breakfast Club is supposed to be there. It's supposed to be for hard-working parents who want to get to work on time or have an earlier shift. We also have to look at how much it's costing. It's 80 million, 350 million set up and 80 million per year. And I think a lot of people who are struggling, working hard and paying think, why should I pay for this?
I mean, from what you're saying, it sounds like it's a very, very expensive gimmick. I also think that tweet that went viral, the Department of Education said on the tweet, what would you do with 95 precious hours back a week? I think that says something quite depressing about the state of our society. Personally, I think time spent with my child is the precious time. Time spent away from the family is not precious. Why do people want to be, or why does the Department of Education think that people want to be spending so much time away from their children?
Yeah, it's like they say, come on, nanny state, don't see your children, put them on a screen and then just put them to bed and not deal with anything. But I think it's not the right way. And actually, if we look at what Labour did back in 2010, when it was the elections, they said we want all schools to be open 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. It didn't work. Again, the financials all went to pot with it. Only about 15 to 20% of schools then kind of were doing it. So you go, what is this fascination with having children in all the time? Now, I appreciate some parents have to go to work. But we already do have some subsidised schemes in place. For example, people who are on a low income get 85% off childcare. So if a Breakfast Club is £2.75 to £5-ish, they're only paying about £1 something anyway. And also 12% of UK state schools also offer subsidised breakfast clubs anyway. So we've already got these schemes in place. Why are they pushing it forward?
Well, exactly, because I suppose one of the arguments could be, of course, that this is distracting from the thousands of children who do live below the poverty line in this country, who sometimes are sent to school hungry, haven't had breakfast, therefore are not learning and, you know, getting on in life. Shouldn't that be the children we're focusing on rather than the mums who want an extra coffee morning with the yummy mummies?
Exactly. It's not... And also a coffee, they filmed it in Kensington and Chelsea, I noticed. A coffee there is about £4 to £5. That's a pure, organic, lovely breakfast for your child. But I do think they're focusing on the wrong area. I don't know if you know about Greggs Gate as well.
No.
There's been a bit of drama with Greggs.
OK.
So Greggs have kindly been giving sausage rolls and things to schools. And apparently lots of MPs are not happy about this now because they're saying it's unhealthy. So they do get help. Kellogg's also gives some things to schools. So there is some help there, but I just think the money is not placed wisely. And if people are on a low income, they already get money off the Breakfast Club. So I don't really believe in that.
Well, thank you very much, Annette Kello. I do think it is so depressing, obviously incredibly expensive, unfair on the taxpayer, and also a bit of a worry with children just becoming institutionalised, spending their entire day at school and no time with their parents.
Exactly. Well, let us know what you think, of course, gbnews.com/your say. Still to come, we'll be joined by Alex Armstrong, who's at the Pink Ladies protest in Chelmsford.
Yes, I'm here in Chelmsford, Essex today, where the Pink Ladies are organising their most monumental protest yet. I'll be chatting to the people here and finding out why is they're protesting here today. I'll be bringing you that very shortly.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's an unsettled day on Sunday in the UK, but it's also unsettled across parts of Greece with blustery showers. Meanwhile, for the Canaries, not too bad. Madeira seeing sunny spells and plenty of settled weather for Spain and parts of Portugal, although northern parts of Portugal into the south of France there will be some rain, and it's showery across Italy, but more so for parts of Greece and Croatia, where there'll be some heavy downpours and strong winds. Very unsettled Central Med next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
So many people within the armed services now can say that they owe their lives if they were, shall we say, work in the Middle East and in Afghanistan, in Iraq before that, actually owe their lives to the fact that it was dogs that they sent out to see whether or not there were explosives in a building, whether they were going through a minefield or whatever. So I think we were just talking previously, of course, Hannibal uses elephants. And there has not been a single year since the end of the Second World War when we have not had a conflict of some sort, and animals are still being used. We don't have horses used in the same way, obviously. We still had the cavalry, which is why 8 million horses were lost. Horses, donkeys and mules were lost in the First World War. But they weren't just the cavalry horses. They were the horses that were pulling the guns, that were delivering the armaments, that were carrying out the wounded. And what is interesting is, today in the 21st century, in Ukraine, who are leading the way in using drones in modern warfare, they are doing what they did in the First World War, and they're using horses, donkeys and mules to take the wounded out. The wonderful memorial that we have on Park Lane, it's there and it recognises that it was horses, dogs, donkeys, mules, and if you look, because they have individual statues of them, but if you actually look at the memorial itself, you will see pigeons, dolphins. I mean, we know that dolphins are being used. As human beings, we share this planet with millions of other animals. And for centuries, we have used certain animals and abused them, used them and abused them, and got them into service with us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain's economy is at a crossroads.
And this budget day, every decision counts.
From taxes and rent to the cost of living.
Whatever the outcome, the GB News family will be there
with expert analysis breaking down what it means for you.
Budget day, all day Wednesday.
Only here on the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Pink ladies are protesting in Chelmsford today against the use of migrant hotels in the name of female safety.
Yeah, there are reports that Lucy Connolly, the woman who was jailed for a tweet stirring up racial hatred, may well speak at the event.
Well, GB News presenter Alex Armstrong is there for us. Alex, what's the mood like on the ground there in Chelmsford? It looks like it's heating up a bit.
Yes, hi Olivia, hello Cameron. It's getting busy at the moment actually. You can see here the Pink Ladies starting to gather behind me here in Chelmsford. We've got a big crowd of people starting to emerge, lots of independent media here also filming the event. Of course, the Pink Ladies is an organisation that traces its roots back to the Bell Hotel in Epping, the protests there. They're just ordinary mothers, women that are protesting against illegal migrants being housed in hotels up and down the country. Of course, this was all sparked by that illegal migrant Hadush Kabatu, who was, of course, the main protagonist in all of this. He was, of course, arrested, charged, and then subsequently deported before, of course, he was accidentally released from prison. Now, the Pink Ladies here today are organising quite a big protest. It's the biggest one that I've been to so far. There are going to be lots of guest speakers today, including potentially Lucy Connolly. Of course, Lucy Connolly, famous for the tweets that supposedly incited violence during the Southport riots. If she speaks today, I suspect it will get quite a crowd. Now you can see lots of flags behind me as well. We've got the Raise the Colours. It's in full operation here in Chelmsford. You can see the flags just around you here, Olivia and Cameron. Obviously, it's a bit of a cold day today. Thankfully, we haven't had those big downpours of rain just yet. So we're hoping that the weather holds out so we can capture some of the speeches that will be taking place on that stage just up there. But as I said, the headline act today is supposedly Lucy Connolly. We'll wait and see if she's able to come and if she's going to speak. We'll try and bring you those images. I'll also be speaking to some of the Pink Ladies here as well, asking why they're here today, what it is they're trying to, of course, get from this big protest today, what they hope to achieve while they're here.
Well, Alex, it looks like there's lots of enthusiastic or a smashing of enthusiastic protesters there. Are there any signs of any counter-protests who may spoil the mood?
No counter-protesters just yet, but having spoken to some of the organisers earlier on, they always say to me that stand up to racism protesters follow them around. So we will be anticipating counter-protesters. Police have started to speak to the organisers here to see whether we do get those inevitable stand up to racism protesters, but nobody as of yet. We will wait and see, of course. No buses, so we wonder maybe they'll just arrive on their own accord. Maybe there'll be local people counter-protesting, but so far just people from Chelmsford, from what I can gather, and from people from around the local Essex area. Cameron, stand up to racism protesters, of course, before have showed up outside the Bell Hotel in Epping and other protests up and down the country, including when I was last at a Pink Ladies protest in Whitechapel. They were there in quite a strong showing, so it will be very interesting to see if they make their way here today.
Well, Alex, thank you very much for that, and I'm sure you'll be keeping us up to date here on GB News. But for now, thank you. And of course, lots of you have been getting in touch. gbnews.com/your say is the website to use. Bobby says on the Breakfast Club's idea, the government's giving away a number of Breakfast Club slots. Breakfast Clubs should be for those that start work before school opens, like my daughter, who pays for Breakfast Club. She starts work at 8:30. She still gives her daughter the option to have breakfast at home or at school. Some parents are just lazy.
Well, I think that's a really good point. And that's what we were saying. That's exactly who it should be for, people who really have to get to work early in the morning, like you and me, actually. We have to get to work very early in the morning.
Very early.
Not for people who just want to have a bit of a lie-in. Very, very strange. We've also got your say saying, I'm sorry, why are we all paying for children to have breakfast? Parents that say they can't afford to feed their kids need lessons in money management and cooking. I mean, I have to say, I do think there is a little bit of truth in that, maybe. I know.
Could be a little bit of truth in that. I think there probably are some parents who genuinely cannot afford to feed their kids and have to go without and have to go to food banks and all the rest of it, which, of course, gives the kids a poor start.
And that's who it should be focused on.
Yeah, and because it isn't focused on that, it seems to be a scattergun approach, there's the danger, isn't there, that people are going to play the system when it comes to benefits and, of course, makes taxpayers lose out.
And it's not going to do anything to that 20 billion black hole we all keep hearing about in public finances, giving free breakfast to everyone. I mean, what a strange move there. Well, thank you so much to Alex, all our reporters today, and thank you to you guys at home for joining us on Saturday Morning Live. But don't go anywhere, as Dawn Neeson is up next with The Weekend. Dawn, what's coming up on the show?
Brilliant show, Yusuf. Thank you so much. We've got a cracker lined up for you. So how do you forget to feed your children? That's the question I'm going to be taking through me out the day. In any case, we are going, obviously, out with the Pink Ladies as well, and hopefully having Lucy Connolly talking. Also, a London grooming gang exclusive. You don't want to miss that one. You're going to get very annoyed. We're also asking, are we all racist? What's racist today? You probably are, by the way. Ash's latest, and also graffiti. Is it art or is it just awful? All of that after the weather. I'll see you then.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Not feeling quite as cold today, though there is going to be plenty of cloudy skies and also some fairly wet weather too. The good news is it should brighten up for many this afternoon, particularly across many northern areas. But where we see this frontal system slowly pushing its way in towards the southeast, that's where we'll see the bulk of the cloud and some rain through the course of this afternoon. Quite blustery, underly cloudy skies through today too, and also some heavy downpours starting to push into central parts of England, parts of the south and southeast, but brightening up nicely across Wales, parts of southwest England, also to the north of this rain band, though we can't rule out some showers just pushing into western coasts of Scotland, and not feeling quite as cold, but still feeling fairly chilly under cloudier skies. Now, to finish off into this evening, still quite wet across many areas, particularly across parts of the southeast where we could still see some heavy downpours. A little drier towards the far west, though there is still going to be plenty of cloud. Can't rule out some showers just skirting their way through in from the Irish Sea, and once again plenty of showers around coasts of Scotland. That's away from the far northeast though. Plenty of dry, clear skies here, but that's where it's going to turn chilly overnight. So likely quite a widespread frost across the northeast of Scotland, possibly some icy stretches.